Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I am here with attorney Peggy Hammerschmidt at HS&A, and we are going to be talking to a very special guest today. We have Mr. Dust with us, and he is going to tell us about his experience with HS&A and what his life is like now, what he went through and what some of the process was like for him. So I want to thank you so much for coming, Mr. Dust.
No problem.
And hello there, Peggy.
Hi, Erica. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Nice to see you, as usual. So, Mr. Dust, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about, why you first came in and met with Peggy.
It was about 2016, and just life kind of threw me a curveball, and I was going through a divorce. So for me to be able to keep everything, I figured it would be best for me to do like a Chapter 13 or something. And a family friend had recommended them, and that was the start of a great relationship, in my opinion.
Well, we think so too. You're one of our favorites.
Thanks.
She said some great things about you. So that's really good to know. So Peggy, when you spoke with him, we haven't talked about how a divorce might put you into a Chapter 13 before, I don't think. But if you could just give us an idea of how you picked that type of bankruptcy as opposed to some of the other options that you have.
Certainly. When Robert first came to us, he was either just finishing up the divorce or the divorce was just finished. And unfortunately for Robert, he's a really hardworking guy. He's always worked very hard his entire life. He's worked for the same company for a long time, provided very well for himself and his family, and he's always done the right thing. And as so many people know, and so many of my clients know, is that when you go through a divorce, you're so used to incomes and all that, where we're dividing up a household, and all of a sudden you're trying to run the same household and have the same expenses and the same debt with only half the income. And you need some retooling for that. And while Mr. Dust has always been a very good earner, and like I said, a great support for his family, sometimes you just need some help to get back on your feet, to readjust your budget, to be able to figure out how am I going to keep all of this stuff that I've worked so hard for all of these years, and be able to still provide for my family without basically working 24 hours a day. And there for a while, Mr. Dust was. My God, I think when we first met, you were working 6 or 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts. He works in the steel industry, and back then they were just cranking it. And so, but he needed some help, and as we all do from time to time, reworking our budget and figuring out how I'm going to keep the house and the cars and do all the things that I've worked so hard for. So under those circumstances, he just really needed a Chapter 13 reorganization to figure out how to deal with all that. And so we put him in a 13, and he can speak better to this than I can, but I think it really helped him rework his budget and be able to get his feet back under him after coming through that very that turmoil that he was going through the divorce and everything.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. But Mr. Dust, when you were going through it, how was the process for you?
As far as with Peggy and the crew over there, it was really easy, to be honest. They just told me what was expected of me, and they laid out the entire plan out for me on what I needed to do, and what forms and materials they needed from me. And as long as I provided in a timely manner, it was such an easy process, as far as like even going downtown and stuff like that. They told me exactly when to be there, how to get there. Just the communication with that office is it's absolutely incredible. It really is.
Oh, that's really great to hear. And I've heard that over and over again. So that was great. So now, from what I understand, we've had this pandemic, and the pandemic hit you in a very, hard way. And I'd love to hear, more about the transition that you went through and how HS&A came back into your life.
Well, I mean, I was getting like a year and a half shy of being completely done with the Chapter 13. And then just everything fell out. US Steel decided they're going to close my plant. They laid off 900 people. Amazingly, I'm still working, but that was not expected at all. So my income dropped in half, essentially, where I was making pretty good income and now not so much. So once I did the math, I called them again. And I was like, the amount I was paying that was being taken from every check to repay this was not going to happen. There wasn't going to be even enough in one check for how much they were taking. They would take my entire check every 2 weeks. That just didn't even make sense, so I swallowed my pride and I said, hey, what can we do? And they said, well, let's convert it to a Chapter 7. And it's something I struggle with because it's not the kind of man I am. I'm a veteran, and my dad taught me well, I feel, and it was hard to have stuff wiped away, so to speak. But I mean, I tried my hardest. I paid a lot back, so I don't feel too bad, and life goes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like from the stories I've heard, that is something that holds people back, is their pride. And sometimes you just can't control what happens to you. It's definitely, there are things that are out of your hand, and sometimes it's better to just, take another path and start over.
Yeah, even originally, if you don't mind me saying, I didn't even want to do the 13. I probably could have done it a year earlier, to be honest with you. But I just kept pushing and just pushing and pushing, just accepting every amount of overtime. And the end result was the same. I could have just done it a year earlier. A lot of less heartbreak.
Yeah. That's pretty common too. A lot of people do put it off. Peggy, I'm going to let you chime in here on, your thoughts on this, and also, what it entailed going from the 13 to the 7. Was it very difficult? That kind of information.
Certainly. That's just to touch on what Robert said, that's one of the biggest things that I wish I could portray more to people considering Chapter 13, is because most of the people, as I tell them, most of the time people don't want to call me, much less come and see me. And I don't take that personally because, it's a hard decision. It is. And my clients are hardworking people who are trying to do the right thing and have been raised the right way, like Robert said, by his father. And, they want to pay their debts and they want to do the right thing. And the biggest thing I try to get out to the clients is, this isn't a knock against you. You have to look at this as a financial decision for you and your family. Circumstances occur that are out of our control. It wasn't like Robert was out living high in the hog and, flying all over the world and everything. He was just trying to do the best for him and his family. And then in this circumstances, unfortunately, when the pandemic hit back in the spring, his income was greatly reduced. He's worked at US Steel for, I can't even imagine, probably close to 20 years at this point, right?
Yeah, a little over 20 years now.
Right, and has always earned very well, but when they started closing plants in the steel industry, took a huge hit back in the spring, as we all know, and with the tariffs and everything else, and they started closing plants. Luckily, he has a job, but that's totally out of his control. He's done everything right. So when he called and we looked at it, we knew we had to convert into a Chapter 7, wherein he could wipe out the remaining portion of the debt that he hadn't repaid because he had been paying for 3.5 years diligently, and doing everything the right way in his mind. And Chapter 7 isn't the wrong way. Chapter 7 is a second second chance for people to get a leash on it. In these circumstances, especially where it was totally out of his control, but we knew we couldn't continue down that path. He wouldn't be able to live. He wouldn't be able to support and provide for his family like he's always done. So the conversion from a 13 to a 7 is a pretty easy paperwork. There's a couple of paperwork we have to sign. There's one more hearing, but then it gets tied up pretty quickly overall. I think we converted Mr. Gust, I think in April. And and you were discharged less than a month ago. So within 3 to 4 months, the case was over and his debts are forgiven, and hopefully he can rebuild and have a better life now and not have to worry about all this other things hanging over his head.
Well, I think that's really great. And, I love that you had another solution to help out when a very unforeseen situation has hit a lot of people, and it's very unfortunate, but it's nice that, now you can work toward a new life, like Peggy was saying. And so what do you think set HS&A apart from other firms you may have dealt with, or, what was special about the experience with them?
I can't speak for, because I haven't dealt with lawyers my entire life. I can't imagine every office is like this, though. Like I was talking earlier, just the communication, and when you call or even email, and the way they get back to you so promptly is just amazing. And then when we're on the phone, it's not like I'm talking to a lawyer or, anything like that. I feel like I'm kind of talking to a family member, just how friendly and almost like they're going out of their way to help you out. And, I just can't say enough good things about them. What I really liked was, like, lots of times I would be in my truck, I would leave work, and I would be on the phone with either Peggy or Jennifer, and the whole way home, it was like talking to a buddy almost. It really was. We were covering all the details that need to be taken care of, and I don't know, it's like just being like talking to a friend,
Thank you. That means a lot to us, because we think of clients as friends or family. Like we do. Our clients are not just clients. We truly and honestly want to make sure everything's taken care of for you.
Well, especially when you're in a 13 and it's going to be a long process.
We're going to be here for a long time.
We know each other a little while.
I'll say that. I mean, honestly, one of the first things I noticed about Peggy and Tim is just that they are salt of the earth. They light up the room when they come in. They're just so positive. And it's definitely something that emanates from them. And so I'm really happy that you all found each other.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's really great. It's a hard thing to go through, and it's nice that you can describe the people that helped you through it as friends, and I can absolutely see that. It's wonderful. Is there anything you'd like to add, Peggy, to this before we go?
No, other than I'm going to miss her talking to Robert all the time. He laughed when I called him this week. He's like, "You promised we weren't going to talk to you."
I did.
Oh, good. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. It's really helpful for other people to hear that it's not it's something that they themselves alone are going through. It's something that a lot.
By no means, really, like I said, I wish I'd done it at least a year earlier, but going through the whole process, it was just a different way to get stuff done,
Yeah, I like how you put it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Peggy, is there anything else on your end?
No, thank you again, Robert. We really do appreciate it, and I hope all is well with you.
Oh, no biggie, Fry.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. We appreciate your coming on today.
All right. Take care, guys.